Good evening, everybody, and welcome to StonesCast 72. After a brief return to our analogue format, we're delighted to be returning to our new home on YouTube, although you can, of course, catch us on your usual podcast providers like Spotify too. I'm your host for this evening, Chris Lane, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mark Hyde.
Good evening.
Tim Parks.
Good evening, Chris.
And Rob Platt.
Hello.
Very impressed, you two, by your Wilbstone shirts. I think Mark and I didn't get that memo. We'll come back to that in a moment. Yeah. This is the great advantage of being able to do it all online. We get to see what people are wearing, get to see people's backgrounds. Rob, I'm guessing that's where the magic happens, is it? Is that your home there?
Yeah, you could say it's my tooting closet, yeah.
I'm not sure I would be Tim's bedroom.
Is that a euphemism, a tooting closet?
Could be, Tim. Could be.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the main bedroom at the moment. I've been banished up here because my wife wants to do stuff downstairs. So.
Oh, it's good. So you can always tell, people how big their houses are when they got an upstairs. Rob? We haven't got that delight, but so one day. Anyway, part of the reason for getting online is to get rid of a lot of this waffle. But we've already made that start, so maybe that'll get edited out by Mickey. We'll see. But we're recording on Wednesday, 26th of February. The day after the unfortunate postponement of the home game against Boston United. After an impressive 3 wins on the trot, we were well placed to go into a game against a side second from bottom with 12 points from 12 in sight. FA Trophy commitments mean that the Aldershot game has been delayed, postponed, so we now have 10 days between our games before we play Tamworth next Tuesday. Does that mean that the management team now has some really crucial time with the squad and space for players to return from injury? What do people think? We'll get onto that in a moment. We'll also give Neil Gibson a 1-month progress report. I think he started on the 28th of January. We're going to reflect on the return of Alex Reid and also ask whether Matty Taylor is just destined to end up on the managerial scrap heap. And do we even really care? I think we kind of do, really, even if he's gone. So really looking forward to the chat this evening. Adam Hills, who's been our expert when it's all come to all things StoneCast online, has been experimenting with lots of graphics and videos. I've already had a go and it hasn't really worked out very well, so I'll try later. We'll see how we get on, but we'll concentrate first and foremost on the views of our guests. So, Tim, I'd like to go over to you first. Braintree away. What was your reaction to it?
We covered Yeovil, the win at Yeovil.
I think that was on the last cast.
Okay, well, we came into, if I can embrace Yeovil with that as well, I think everybody's in a bit of a funk after we lost at home to Gateshead. We didn't win in 3 home games. We lost 2, drew 1 after Neil Gibson had come in. I think those brave souls who went down to Yeovil were incredibly heartened by the win there. I think we had, was it Mark 140, was it? Were you there, Rob?
Yeah, it was more than the 2 seasons ago when we had 30 or
really,
something. But,
really good numbers. People kept the faith, basically. I think that was the truth. And we picked up an unexpected 2-1 win there. And then, of course, we rolled on to Braintree. And I had the misfortune of suggesting to 2 of my grandchildren that we watch that game because they live on the way there, Bishop Stortford. And normally that means that you get spanked and everybody has a miserable time and your daughter doesn't want to go to the next game. But they said, is it like this every time when Wilson play? Said my 11-year-old. And our little brother said, yeah, every game I've been to, one at Southend, we drew with Dorking. They're the last 2 games they saw. They loved it there. Much better than they've been to Tottenham. So it's like going to the theatre there.
I think they like the language, Tim, because I was
who doesn't?
It was certainly lively at the start for young kids.
Yeah, Emily was asked, is the language okay? And she said it's far worse than this at home. She said so. Shed a bit of light on my daughter and her husband.
It's formative, I remember growing up on the stands at Edgware, and you come home, you wouldn't be able to tell your mum what you'd heard on the stands, but you knew what it all meant. That was great.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were singing along the songs in the back of the car coming back, and they thought Emily said it's great. Everybody just jumped on top of each other. It's not like that at the big games. Everybody just sits there politely and claps. So it was quite something at Braintree.
Good.
Well, we haven't had that for a while, have we? I mean, I was reflecting when we got to Braintree that we haven't had many moments this year. We saw Grimsby, There were a couple of others, but not huge, sort of really exciting moments. I don't know, Rob, for you, did you go into that game with any expectation? I know we'd had that, as Tim was saying, that a positive result against Yeovil. I think there was a thought that the two easier games were probably those to come against Ebbsfleet and Boston. We turned Braintree over quite comfortably in the home game, but were you expecting us to do so given their uplift in form?
Yeah, I mean, like Tim, I'm gonna bring in the Yeovil performance because I actually think it does lead into Braintree. I was abroad, so I managed to watch the whole game, and I didn't. This sounds weird, but I didn't come away from Yeovil optimistic. I thought it felt like one of those lucky wins that you get, sort of at the bottom of the table, and I didn't think it was going to really spur us on to go and get obviously the 6 points that we got after that. And I really, truly believe that 45 minutes into the Braintree, that first half, it was woeful. Obviously going down in 6 or 7 minutes or wherever it was. When you sort of miss those chances that Reed had, I think Dom had a few going down that wing. It just felt like, oh God, this is one of those days we're not going to score. If we played all night, it just had one of those feelings, and I just felt deflated. I know that people around me felt deflated, and you can't really get yourself up. The atmosphere was sort of flat at that point, but that is where credit where credit's due. That halftime team talk must have been something, because we really did turn it around, and I'm sure Mark and Tim will allude to it, but what I found really positive about it is how well we saw that game out. Because I think we've had issues in the past where we're just so poor at seeing games out, and some of the goals we conceded have been dire. But they really just didn't look like scoring in that sort of last 15 minutes. And I felt when we were 2-1 up, it was kind of complete end of the spectrum, where I just felt comfortable. If anything, we were going to add to it on the counter or something. But yeah, I mean, it was that second half was so much better than the whole Yeovil game for me, and the first half.
It was nice. It's sort of old school as well, because it's really a National League South ground, a bit like you could say the Vale. You're right on top of the action. We're becoming used to being stuck in stands away from the action, and it's a bit remote, isn't it? Especially when you score at the other end. But there it was, all unfolding before you, and I found that really quite exciting. I know the kids did as well. And so 6 points out of 6. That was a huge fillip at that time for the management team and the fans, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
What did you think?
Yeah, sorry, go on, Chris.
I was going to say, were you giving the goal to Max or an own goal? What did you think for that?
Well, I suppose I'll come to that. I'll start from the beginning. From my point of view, Yeovil. I went in with zero expectation. Gave us 0% chance in the pub before the game. Came out thinking, coming up Braintree. Walked into the ground full of hope. 5 minutes later, we're a goal down, and they're absolutely battering us. And then the yellow card for Reed. That I'm not sure. I don't know what you guys think, but the photos clearly show him getting to the ball first, no studs up. Weirdly, talking to Alex on Saturday, he said he thought, as a ref or a linesman, he thought yes, it was a yellow. He thought it was dangerous, but the keeper was miles from the ball.
He was dangling his foot though, wasn't he? It's not as if it was malicious in any way. In fact, he was still withdrawing it, if anything, even before the contact.
Yeah, but I was encouraged with
the pinch of salt.
Yeah, the second half, as Rob said, was encouraging. We came out, we really went for it. It was good to see. We saw the game out, as again Rob said, which I think we did at Yeovil as well. There was a little bit more pressure at Yeovil, but I think we did well to see the game out, which is something, as you said, Rob, we didn't do before. We could be guilty of very late goals. All in all, it was a good night as we came away with the points. It was, a long drive, as it turned out, 2.5 hours to get there, but then road closures on the way home. But yeah, worth every minute, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you win, does it? Yeah, I think that it was a really important win, a good marker for Gibson. as well, and the team. I think it really struck me, and it really encouraged those of you that haven't listened to it to listen to the Alex Dyer cast that he did with Hilsey, and he really talked about the tail end of last season where the senior pros really just sort of stood up to the mark, and you did get that sense with that game. As much as it was a great victory, it wasn't a good performance, especially. We sort of ground it out. And do you get a sense over the last couple of games, are we now able to win dirty in a way that we weren't able to before?
I don't think it's dirty, but it's not pretty, I think, is the answer to that. And to answer your earlier question, Chris, you've got to give it to Max, haven't you? I mean, we were right behind that goal. And
he's claiming it.
He took the ball was going in, he took it in with him.
Yeah.
Or he was,
yeah.
You've got to be generous. Give it to Max, come on.
Yeah, he's claiming the goal for sure.
Correct.
It was also definitely in. Like, I was right behind the goal. It was 100% over the line.
Yeah, we were all right in that. We were all quite close to each other that night, weren't we? And yeah.
That sort of thing doesn't happen in the National League, though, does it? Really, that's a throwback to the National League South and the Ryman League. Even goalkeepers making that sort of mistake.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, how good was their? Is it their 5? I can't remember his name. Someone who knows detail will know. The big guy.
No detail here.
No, it's a big Braintree defender.
What did he do?
Yeah, was it Ubo or something?
Yeah.
We'll call him
fantastic.
That,
we need a player like that.
Well, both ends, they had big lumps at both ends, didn't they, really?
Yeah.
It caused us problems. But we worked it out. They managed to have Mariappa standing one side, Josh Grant on the other side. I want to call him Akinfenwa. Oh, John Akinde.
That's it.
He was fantastic in the past at Barnet, not as mobile as he used to be, but they found a way of actually out-muscling him. They both took off at the same time and he couldn't get off the ground.
Yeah, no,
and that's a bit of an ouse there, because I think that's down to the coaching. They told them how to cope with it, and it worked, and it subdued them in the second half, and we were good value.
It was great karma in that the Braintree fans were singing, you're getting down, or we're staying up after about 10 minutes, and you've got to love that, haven't you? I mean, I will not be sad to see them go down if they do. It's as much as I, don't mind a bit of a throwback to a National League South ground. And give me a Chesterfield or a Southend any day. So, and just as
in true Wildstone style, we when we went 2-1 up, we all waited until the final whistle before we gave them any grief back, because we could see what was incoming.
Yeah,
no, most definitely. And I think just a quick nod to Grant. I think it was his consecutive goals, consecutive games, and lovely touch from Obiero as well in the lead up to that goal. I think it was,
a lot of credit for that.
Genuinely good goal, that.
Yeah, the manager was at pains to point out Obiero's touch there, because he needs some support, Micro Obiero.
It just opened everything up, didn't it? From behind the goal, you could see the touch, and Grant was just there. It just opened in front of him as the ball just fell to him.
Yeah. As soon as sort of Grant got in possession of the ball, I just knew it was in. I started celebrating before he even hit.
Nicely across the keeper and into the corner as well.
Yeah, the perfect ball's width inside the post. But he's class, isn't he, Josh Grant? And he can play in any one of a number of positions.
Yeah.
I'm still not entirely convinced with him at centre back. I do think he's a better CDM.
I think that's needs must, isn't it? Or was
it? Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure we'll get onto it, but I was surprised. I was kind of surprised Cook didn't get his place back at Ebbsfleet.
Well, I spoke to the manager after the game briefly, and he said, "Well, I had to keep the side the same because we won." So there is some merit.
There is that. You can't just walk back into the team if you're on the back of 2 wins, can you? Even if you are Jack Cook. I mean, we always love to him.
As we said,
I think Jack Cook might be the one person who could do it.
Well,
to be fair,
you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think I missed the Ebbsfleet game, but the balance that he gives us aerially, I think, is something that we can't underestimate.
We'll come
and certainly for me,
we were better with him on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Well,
we could probably go on to it now. Yeah.
Ebbsfleet had a game plan, didn't they? They knew we were susceptible if they stuck the ball under the crossbar. They got big players there, and they knew that Jack Cook probably wouldn't be playing, wouldn't come straight back in the team. And they played on that fact, I think. If Cookie had been there, he's like a magnet, isn't he, for those high balls? He would have mopped up certainly one of the goals. He left us looking very exposed, I thought. And when he came on, he was like a spring chicken, wasn't he? Running around like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I think he quite likes being on the
playing
side.
For his place, Tim.
Well, yeah, there is that. it's great. He's got the enthusiasm. Some players might have sulked, mightn't they? But he's come straight back into it.
Team player. You could see him celebrating at the end of the
high-fiving
game with everybody.
Yeah. No, it was excellent.
I think he has had a few difficult moments this season. I think the problem with Jack is because he's so brilliant most of the time that when he doesn't play well, it's often because he's making an error. And actually, there's a lot of work he does that we don't always give him enough credit for, sort of bringing the ball out from the back.
But I think he had a really sticky pitch when Andy gave away a couple of penalties. I mean, he was having a torrid time that day, wasn't he?
Yeah.
We'll have covered it in the previous cast, but yeah.
I don't want to go back to that again, but I thought one of them wasn't a penalty when you see it from a different angle. But the referee only saw the angle that I saw. I was on that side of the pitch, and it looked like a pen then.
Yeah.
But, the rub of the green has come back to favour us, I think, in the last 3 games. And Harrison Sonar came good. I had a chat with him for the programme yesterday, and he's quite fascinating. He's taken, this is interesting, he's taken 3 free kicks in his professional career. 1 for Sunderland when he was playing there in their under-23s. He played 4 games, Mark, for you. Sunderland.
He did. Yeah.
2 in the EFL Trophy, 2 in the Carabao. By his first free kick he ever took in range, he scored for Sunderland under-23s. The second one he took was for us against Solihull, which just whistled over the top. And the third one went in. So it's not bad, is it? 2 out of 3. Considering the many years that we waited for somebody to even get the ball on target.
You may well have jinxed it, Tim.
Yeah, I'll wait to see his next one. We'll see what happens with that. Rob, what were your reflections on Ebbsfleet? I mean, that was a must-win game, even despite the Braintree win. We've got to be beating Ebbsfleet, haven't we? If we've got any chance, we've been so bad against them away the last couple of times as well.
Yeah, I think what was encouraging for me is that when we went a goal down, obviously 1-0 and then 2-1, each time I wasn't worried. I really wasn't. I knew we'd get back into it and we'd, excuse me, even if it was sort of second half, we'd push on and we'd win. They looked all right. I was kind of surprised that they're down there on, 14, 15 points or whatever it is. But I think you could just, over the 90 minutes, you just saw that we actually are a class above them. We're a better team than them. I thought the goals were taken well. Obviously, the free kick. I was by the Brian Collins, and everyone was saying, "Oh God, how high is this going to go?" It doesn't stand a chance. And then it's sort of limbs on the terraces sort of thing after that, which was.
I was in the Brian Collins, Rob, and I said to Martin Reed was stood next to me, and when Kretschmar walked away from it, and from the angle we were stood, I said, "There's absolutely no chance of hitting the target from there."
Yeah.
as it basically went.
Literally, it was brilliant. You know what, we need that. It's so rare for us to score a free kick. It feels like you go sort of back through the years.
Without being a spoiler alert for the program interview, he actually said as he came up to take the free kick, he was thinking first of all of putting it inside the keeper's near post on the right hand side, keeper's right hand side. But then he saw the keeper standing pretty much in the middle, rather than protecting his far post. So it made up his mind. Plus the sun was at a very awkward angle. I don't know whether you noticed that. And neither keeper had a cap, which is pretty crucial seeing the flight of the ball. So he was, as far as I was concerned, and also Harrison said this as well, the goalkeeper was standing in the middle of his goal, not really knowing where the ball was going to go, not covering either post. So if you get on target and up and over the keeper and down, of course, he was going to score, and he did.
I mean, it was perfectly executed. It was, where it was placed was you just couldn't have.
Yeah, not a hope. Even for a tall keeper would have struggled.
Incredible. I know it was the other end of the ground, and it sort of foreshortens your view, but it just looked too tight to get that up and over the wall and back down again and in. It was just perfect.
Well, he managed it. Does it in training apparently. Trains as much as he can, practicing the free kicks. So I think he'll be on dead balls for a while now, and corners as well. His corners are pretty good.
It's nice to know that somebody who's good at free kicks in training can actually turn it on a game. So we've heard that over the years, haven't we? You should see him in training. He's absolutely awesome. It's one thing to know there's a gap in the goal and another one to find it. So, I mean, I think Ebbsfleet that's a huge win for us. We obviously were then hoping to be going into the game at Boston last night, which was unfortunately called off. Quite late in the day, I suppose. I suppose it was early enough in that it was midday. We hadn't.
Yeah, it was early enough to stop them travelling, but it was. Yeah, it's got to be done, hasn't it? You've got to make the call early enough. You can't make them travel twice.
Well, we've made them travel 3 times, haven't we?
Yeah, but the fans, they were in the pub on New Year's Day when we were in there. They were already down there when it was called off.
Yeah. I went to watch St Albans that on New Year's Day after our game was off, and there's quite a lot of Boston fans were there. They're having a day out. They want to see a bit of football. And they were great.
I think they're old. Is it Bastock? Their goalie that played over 500 times for them. I think he's their assistant manager at St Albans.
He is, yeah.
To Culverhouse. You wouldn't go there up for any other reason unless you're Tim.
Yeah.
It's local.
Yeah. Can I just rewind us a minute here? Because the Ebbsfleet game, we made a lot of substitutions in the second half. Did you think we looked better when they came on? Because
wasn't it good to have a strong bench though? That's the thing. The difference.
Yeah,
we've not had a bench to speak about really. That's why
I think they visibly crumbled when we took the lead, didn't they? After the free kick, it was like then mentally they were done, weren't they?
But it was a step up in our personnel when the 4 subs came on. They're all players who were worthy of starting the game. I think Sam Ashford as well. He's back, isn't he?
Well, very lively. I've said it in both games that he came on because he came on at Braintree as well, didn't he? I mean, Reed, I think you need the 2 of them. Reed is a far more dangerous player with Ashford on the pitch.
Yeah, definitely. Very true.
No, he certainly is. And I think having that strength and depth is really what we're going to need towards the end of the season, because I think although we're doing well, I still look at our squad and I think, we've got Braintree, we've got Obiero and Hutchinson. They've done okay in those games. We've got a squad in which we've got Mariappa, Eastmond, Max, Dyer, all playing fairly prominent roles. And I think in terms of, if you were to look at the start of the season and where we are now and what the balance might look like, we may need to have a look at that again and think, actually, how's it worked out? Now, for the next 14 games, we just need to stay up one way or another. And I think however we're best to do that, and having that experience will certainly help. But I think it'll be interesting to see with Gibson as the players come back, maybe with that game next Tuesday, what his actual settled best 11 will be. And hopefully that he'll get some time in the next week or so to really have a look at them and decide that.
Great to see Alex, though, wasn't it? It was still that Rolls Royce of pinging. The ball pinging was just perfect.
You mean Dyer?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex Dyer. Yeah, there's real, competition for places there. You got Alex Dyer, you got Craig Eastman. You may say similar players.
We haven't praised Craig either. He did well, didn't he?
No, he's great. He talks. If you hear him, he talks all the way through the games, doesn't he?
Yeah. And Dom. I mean, he's undroppable now.
Of course,
3 games with Dom, 3 wins.
Yeah. How can you? Then you got Cisse though, haven't you? He's coming back. He could well be fit for next Tuesday. You reckon? He's not thin enough, really. He's thin, but he's not that thin.
Well, I mean, no one's got legs as thin as Cisse.
So in the midfield, you got Eastman, you got Dye, you got Solney, you got Cisse, you got Kretschmar. And you really can only play 3 of those, maybe 4 to push.
That's a playoff team now.
Yeah,
on paper.
Only think
at their peak. I do. I mean, I haven't seen as much of Eastman, but he's been a disappointment to me. I know he's starting to get back into having that bit of rhythm, and it's a bit like with Max. We know Max is brilliant when he gets that run together, and I think it'd be if we could just get through to the end of the season with no more injuries. I totally agree with you, Mark, that Ashford's crucial. I think he's been one of our most pivotal players this year, and we look a much better player when he's playing, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And pivotal. I think that is exactly right. It is totally.
Yeah, they're on the same wavelength, aren't they, Reed and?
I mean, it's just great to see 2 players working like that up front. It's like Beckford and Jolly. I mean, we haven't seen anything like that for quite some time, have we? Or ever, probably, for the youngest.
Yeah. Rob, did you see Beckford and Jolly?
Oh, of course, yeah, I saw Beckford and Jolly. Yeah.
You're looking more and more like Jermaine Jenas, I have to say.
I mean, he's been cancelled, so I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I think Rob might even be wearing a shirt.
Hey, yeah, he's got a Beckford Jolly shirt on, hasn't
he? Yeah, it's my dad's old one. Handed down, but I was there at Edgeware.
They were sensational. You had to win the game on their own, though, didn't they? I think that's not quite true of Ashford and.
Apart from them two at Northwood, some weeks you wouldn't know any of the other players. They were all new virtually.
Yeah, they're just filling in the gaps around Beckford and Jolly.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite first player was Dean Papali. If you.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what? When I first took my oldest son Jack to Northwood, he used to love Dean. I mean, Dean was a superstar, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And he's a really nice guy. I've seen him at the Vale a few times.
I was just going to say, Mark, I saw him at the Vale last season, this season before, and he said, "Oh, hello, Dean. How you doing? And you're fantastic." He said, "Oh, I didn't think anybody would remember me. This was in the bar."
Yeah.
And of course we remember you. He said, "But I only played for a couple of seasons." Yeah, but you scored lots of goals.
Yeah,
and
he was our goals. He was our goals at the time.
His most prolific penalty taker as well at one time.
Yeah,
about 8 in a row. Yeah, no, it's good. We remember our top players, don't we? That's
interestingly, just talking about penalties and going off on an extreme tangent. Cronin that I just mentioned. I saw him talking to Neil on Twitter, so they obviously know each other from the Welsh game. And Sean was congratulating him and saying he was going to pop down to the Vale and catch a game. So
angling for a comeback.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Put me on pens. Someone that can have free kicks. I want the pen.
Cronin was at Forest Green away this year, I think, so he keeps a close eye on the team, which is good.
With their goalkeeper, I think, wasn't
he? Yeah. Just coming back to obviously this season. So Boston being postponed, do we think that there's a danger we lose momentum? There's no guarantee that we'd have picked up 3 points yesterday, but that could have been a very valuable 3 points. Rob, what do you think? It reminds me a bit of Maidenhead last year, where it was postponed New Year's Day just after we'd hammered them, and you just sort of wonder, are we going to be in such a good position? They might be down by the time we play them again. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thoughts, and I'm in a few Wilson group chats, and there was a lot of sort of varying opinions on this. I really wanted it on, and I was actually quite gutted it was called off.
Yeah.
I think momentum can be more important than fitness in a way. And I really, really fancied us. Yesterday. I mean, look, there is the possibility that they are dead and buried when we play them, but then they've got nothing to lose.
Twice. Still got to play them twice. They could be dead and buried.
Yes, of course. Yeah, twice. Yeah, but sometimes when they've got nothing to lose, it's just easier for them. There's no pressure. And probably when we will play, there will be a lot of pressure on us. The longer this season goes on, the more pressure that the team will be under for 90 minutes. So I don't know. I get the argument that we need that rest, which obviously we're not playing Saturday. So the boys will be raring to go at Tamworth, but
it would have been 4 games in 10 days as well, Rob.
But then I still would have fancied us. I really would have done.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
The management team talk about contact time with the players, don't they? Very often, and they crave that. So when you've got 2 games in a week, they probably get 1, maybe 2 sessions.
Especially if they want to prepare specifically for the opposition. If you're going from game to game to game.
Exactly. So now they've got a nice period to look at Tamworth and Rochdale the week after, 2 tough games, and we can still maybe get that 4 wins in a row. 5 is a record for us.
What, in the National League?
Yes, since we came back in that first season, we had 5 games. If you remember, 5 straight wins, went second in the table.
I remember going second
in the COVID season.
Kept us up if we could have gone down.
Yeah,
no, it didn't actually.
It would have done. It probably would have kept us up early in the season. But then we had a little run 2 years ago when we won 3 in a row, and that's the best since then, statistically. So 4 in a row would be the second best run, basically, since the late 80s. In the National League.
With that in mind, I guess what's going to be interesting in the next couple of games, because we obviously didn't play last night and we're not playing at the weekend because of the Aldershot game being off, is actually by virtue of not playing, our position could be improved depending on how other teams do. I don't know if anyone watched any of the games or kept track to them last night. So I think we had Aldershot, Pete Solihull, we'll come on to them a bit later. was a late win for York against Maidenhead, which I think really put a smile on all of our faces.
Yeah, because Maidenhead went one up, didn't they? And we were all like, oh my God.
And a late draw for Rochdale against Tamworth as well. So Tamworth may well be edging away from where we are in that mini league. But yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to see, actually. And then looking towards the weekend as well, there's a couple of games. So Maidenhead are away to Forest Green. You expect they might lose there. Ebbsfleet home to Tamworth. Braintree at home to Eastleigh. Fylde away to Gateshead. So I think there's a lot of games there, but you wouldn't necessarily expect our rivals to win. So I'd rather have the points on the table than have the games in hand necessarily. But we're in a reasonable position at the moment. We've got fairly decent goal difference. So hopefully by the time we play next, we may well have... by virtue of other teams losing, being even a stronger position than we are now.
Yeah, there is that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But, you look, so 7 at home and 7 away, isn't it? Our away record's getting better all the time. Our home record's improving. I think the average supporter you'll talk to, where they're in the depth of despond after the Gateshead 0-4 at home, but since then, I think everybody's quietly confident, maybe not so quietly confident, that we're going to get those 50 points, which I think we're going to need.
I think we're averaging 1.4 points a game at the moment under Neil.
Yeah.
So add them to what we've got and you're getting close, aren't you?
6th in the form table. I think we should talk about Solihull, Chris. That amuses me at the moment.
Well, we'll get onto them in a moment. Yeah, we'll get onto them in a moment. Just in terms of the new manager, how much of this sort of turnaround are we attributing to him? What have people's reflections been? Do you think we'd have been able to do this if we'd had Taylor? Is it down to the players? Is it something that he's done? So I don't think we played especially well, but we've got over the line, which is great to see.
According to all accounts, the senior players got their heads together after the Gateshead game and decided almost amongst themselves to rip into some of the players and collectively as a group saying, this is, we're going badly wrong here. What's the problem? And it was almost outside Neil Gibson's remit because these players got together and they spoke about it amongst themselves. And then Gibson got them together to talk about it as a group at training. And since then, it's a completely different mindset. So they've talked it out. Yeah. Although I think that was
actually to get settled. Obviously, a couple of games you can give him that, but. Would the answer to your question, Chris, would we have got the results we got under Matty? I doubt it. In all honesty, no way. I doubt it.
I think the other thing I was reflecting on, I don't know if these graphics are turning up for you, but we're going to try, see how the technology works. It really did occur to me that obviously we've done really well with these 9 points. If you look at the league table and we'd have only picked up 4 or 5, we would have been in serious trouble. And I think that, you have to reflect on that as well as we've been doing. This league is tight and certainly in that, 22 and up position. But, we'll come on to Solihull in a bit. Do we think, 42 points, do we think they're in danger? I know Leo on our cast chat thinks that Solihull will get rid of Taylor before they get anywhere near to that amount. But, a couple of teams, games in hand here or there, it's not going to take much. A win suddenly becomes extremely valuable. And I think to your point, Tim, about how many points we need, there's one of these predictors. I think it suggests we need 47, and that would get us finishing in 19th, I think, overall. And that's with us winning 2 more, and I think drawing another 5 or 6. So I think it'll be really interesting. We've got within that, maybe 2 wins against Boston, a win against Maidenhead, if we can swing it. But we probably don't need to win that many more games. We just need to try and keep up our record of drawing as many as we have.
Yeah, there's a new mentality in the group, though, isn't there? I think they're convinced they're not going to lose games now, and I think that's a huge
key now, isn't it? Not losing as well.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I made the mistake of going up to Fylde expecting to win. I just thought it was 3
So
points.
did I, mate.
And I'm there for the jolly up,
That's our danger. That's our problem as a club, I think. Whenever expectation, rears its ugly head. We went to Kidderminster, if you remember, a couple of years ago, on the back of a few good wins. Everybody said, "Oh, you will win there," and it ended up the nasty instance at the end with Matt.
Yeah, it was almost a carbon copy of that game, wasn't it? I mean, we all went there expecting to win, and we were absolutely woeful.
That was really
both games.
Yeah, but that's why I can't go into sort of, especially away games now, even Boston, thinking we're going to win. And look at our result against Ebbsfleet away when we dropped 2 points there as well.
Yeah, it's criminal.
It was the other night our first double this season over anyone. It was, wasn't
it? Braintree was their first double. Ebbsfleet we drew away, so we've only got one double to our name this season, which was Braintree. And their fans, Chris, you're talking about the Ebbsfleet fans at home, or is it the Braintree fans? No, the Braintree fans away. Yeah,
Braintree fans. Yeah.
That's why you're going down.
That's why you're going down. They were singing exactly the same thing when they were leading at the Vale, but we came back to win that one 3-2. So that's why we keep quiet till the 90th minute.
Yeah,
we've learned.
Final whistle, in fact.
We've learned.
Yeah, you learn those lessons, don't you?
We certainly do. I guess looking ahead, it feels a long time away. I'm not going to have my football fix for a while, but next Tuesday we've got Tamworth away. I think I've managed to swing it at work so I can leave at about 4 o'clock so I can get the 4:46 train up. I think there is one out of London at 5, which is about £100, which is ridiculous. One at 6, which is a bit cheaper. And I think there's a train back that arrives into London at about 11:45. So I think I'm going to jump on the coach back. I believe that's running to Tamworth. There are still some seats available on that. Definitely running. So if you are thinking about going to Tamworth and you're unsure, definitely get in touch with Dave Reeder, see if there are any seats available. It'd be great to have as many people there as possible. It's new ground for pretty much everyone, I think. Have you guys been, Tim or Mark?
I managed to avoid the cataclysmic 2-0 FA Cup defeat when they're about 4 leagues below us in 88, the year we went down from the National League.
I think it's that and Boston are the only 2 grounds I haven't been to in the league, because Boston's a new ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm working in Wolverhampton that day, Chris, so it's like a 15-minute drive from work to get to the game.
It's surprising that the coach has not sold out, because I think people would be gagging for football, won't they?
It will sell out, Tim. It's now definitely running. I think people hold off to make sure it's definitely running to make their plans. It's running, so it'll fill.
Yeah, that's good. And see our 4th win on the board.
Well, I hope so. Well, I think Tamworth have been an interesting team this year, haven't they? They've sort of probably overperformed based on start of the season expectations. Great FA Cup run. I missed the game at home when we played them, but they were just sort of very solid and snuck a goal.
We're actually better than Tottenham, aren't we? I know they struggled against Tottenham.
We're
better than Tottenham.
We had Max Kretschmar sent off, don't forget.
We did.
The last 35 minutes, I think it was. So
I don't know if your stats you had up earlier show, Chris, but I think their home form, and we can be very simplistic and say they've got a plastic pitch and it helps their home form, but I think their home form is fairly decent.
Well, I know that they're 20th in the form table.
Are they?
Yes.
Yeah, they haven't won.
They did really well, didn't they?
So it's an interesting one, yeah. So this is the bottom end of the table. So Tamworth are not in great form. Dagenham, I think I've been looking at them thinking they could well be one to be sucked into that bottom of the table as well. Solihull, what do we think? I mean, the first draw was against us, wasn't it? And that's the only one he's got.
0 points since.
Yeah, that's extraordinary. My mate Mick Fishman, a fellow veteran fan, describes Matt Taylor as the Liz Truss of football, which is a bit cruel. When I was working at the Sun, we would have put his head on a turnip. No, on a lettuce probably.
Was that down to you, Tim, that lettuce thing, was it?
I was working that evening, yeah, and it's not a thing I'm very proud of, because I knew Graham Taylor pretty well, because I used to report on him when he was a Watford manager. And I saw him socially, and I knew what a huge sort of blow that was to him personally. It ridiculed him. That's the last thing people want in football, isn't it? Anybody wants, really.
Well, we'll put it down to you, Tim.
Largely, yeah. Swedes 1, turnips 2, or Swedes 2, turnips 1, rather. I mean, that was one of the great all-time headlines by a bloke called Dave Clement, one of the sub-editors on the Sun. And when as soon as he said that,
you just chucked him under the bus, Tim.
Well, he's dead. He's long dead, unfortunately. But he was a fantastic, for tabloid headlines, that was a fantastic line. And then somebody had the idea of mounting his head on a turnip.
Yeah.
And
not the best ever football headline. That was the Super Cali Go Ballistic Celtic are atrocious one.
Yeah. Oh, well, that was taken on from QPR, apparently. QPR atrocious. Super Cali. Ian Callaghan goes ballistic. QPR atrocious. That was the original one, about 10 years ago. So they nicked it. They nicked the headline. And converted it.
See the things you learn on here, Chris. This wasn't on your
agenda. I mean, yeah, exactly. And I think with Taylor, for me, it's a tricky one because he came in. I've always liked managers that can speak well. I think that, compared to Noble, absolute chalk and cheese, or a Bobby who was enthusiastic but a bit awkward with it. I thought he, had all the right ingredients. But then you look at a Lampard or a Gerrard, some of these other players who've had really successful careers. And I suppose if you reflect on it, within a football team, you've got, 11 starters and then much bigger squads. Actually, the number of managers that there are across the whole game is far fewer. And, it's a definite endorsement of the fact that being a good player doesn't necessarily translate into a good manager. He seemed to have great respect for the
very media trained.
Yeah, he was. But there's been some sort of suggestion. It's very hard. It's a bit like with Bobby following Gordon. When you've had a successful manager there, and I know there were people in between, but, if you look at the way that Stuart and Matty spent the time on the opposition, the way that they...
That's the key, isn't it? I think he was seen as not putting the effort in, really.
I think we're fairly certain that didn't happen. A full-time manager should have been...
Yeah, shouldn't have been on the golf course all the time. It was a lifestyle choice, wasn't it, for Matt Taylor? And although he's very friendly, very nice to talk to, as you say, very, very literate, he came across as a bit aloof. And people wonder why he's actually in management, because he's come out of the game very well off. He could almost do a Mark White and take over a club like Dorking and push them up through the leagues. If he wanted the ego boost to do that, he's financially capable of doing that. So it makes you wonder why he wants to be managing clubs at our level anyway.
Well, I think, to be fair, it probably says that he isn't motivated by cash. He wants to be a successful manager, and it's obviously one of those really quite sad things that it's just not worked out. Whether he needs to actually realise that it's, you've got to graft your way towards that.
He didn't appear to be doing the work, Chris.
No, and that's it.
It's not just standing in a dugout, is it?
Yeah. I could see him as a director of football or a media pundit at some point. He's got all the sort of right credentials for some of that. But actually, when it comes to getting down, and I don't know about you, Rob, I found on Twitter and things, Neil Gibson is already just making those small gestures of, tweeting the fans' accounts, really, saying thank you for the travelling fans, which it's only small, and they don't need to do that, but it does create that connection.
Yeah, it just really doesn't take much. Even just a gesture, just when you win, you can really feel it. When you come out, it's not just thanks for coming. It's, come on, that sort of thing. You can actually really feel how much that win meant to them, and how much it actually means for them to have that backing and support. I often felt a lot when we had Matty, even David Noble to extent going back there, but it just felt like a token gesture. Like, oh god, we've got to go up and clap the fans. And I've been reading on Twitter that the Solihull fans are actually really angry that
I was going to say that
he's not been doing that at all. He's just been.
Well, he apologised. He apologised after the last game. Sorry, I didn't come over and clap the fans and say thank you. But
we went over last night, evidently, but hung around behind the players.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good look, is it, really?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, we talked about Hills's really good interview with Alex Dyer. And if you listen again to that, he's actually quite evangelical almost about the way Matty Taylor and, Matt Saunders and Stuart Maynard put the work in and stuck to their plan, keeping the ball, denying the other team the chance to hurt us by keeping the ball. And that was they had a plan A. And it was a really good plan A. And even if it went wrong, the next week they went back to plan A. And Alex Dyer was very, appreciative of that, I think. So the players knew exactly how they're supposed to play, what they're supposed to do in certain moments. And most of the time, it worked. They kept a very small squad up
I
in
don't think
Adelaide.
you'll find a harder working pair than those two were. They really,
they were
in a good way.
And going back to interviews, and I'm really going to annoy Sud and mention Sunderland for a second time on the podcast, but has anyone seen the Matt Taylor, the Roy Keane interview when he's talking about Matt Taylor signing for Sunderland? Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, if anyone listening hasn't seen that video, I think it was one of the, what do they call that tour where they go out and talk about football on Sky?
Well, that video resurfaced from 2019, so it's quite an old video. It's quite an old video.
Yeah, it was Roy Keane trying to sign Matt Taylor for Sunderland, and it's I won't spoil it, but it's well worth a watch.
Spoil it?
No, it's worth a watch for everyone.
It was extraordinary how Matt Taylor managed to text him in the moment that he walked.
But you're spoiling it.
Disaster.
In terms of Gibson, do we feel that we've seen enough yet to, what has he given a sense of what his identity is going to be? Is it a case of sort of just actually plugging the gaps and starting to think about, like, let's get us into a team that's not going to get beaten, get some of those wins, and that will follow? I mean, I certainly feel that even were we to go down, he's the ideal sort of person, I think, because of the hunger that he's got. I'm really quite optimistic that we'll be quite safe now as a result of that, but actually it's going to be a real challenge for him, once he's able to get his own players, adapt into the hybrid. Do we feel that that's something that is still to come from him in terms of a vision, or are we starting to see that at all?
He's affable, isn't he? That's his main quality, I think, and the players like him, the fans like him. He's tactically aware. I think he had a problem at the beginning, as I say, with those senior players who maybe thought that it wasn't working, but perhaps it was down to them as much as him. The fact that they weren't directing themselves and using their influence over the other players. But I think he's such a nice guy that you have to wish him well. And he's got 2 years.
Class, Tim.
Well, not always. Sometimes, if they get people on side.
I'm not a stats guy.
You're bitter and twisted about that's what it is.
Yeah, I am. I'm not a stats guy or a tactician or technical guy like Chris and Rob probably, and you, Tim, but I personally, I couldn't say I've seen a system or a shape from him yet. I would say he's adapted to the players available and to the team we're playing. I can't say I could tell you what his shape would be or what his team would be.
Well, he preaches possession football, doesn't he? From his time at Connors Quay Nomads, that was because he got upset when people thought he was going to.
We haven't seen that necessarily, Tim, have we? We haven't seen the same.
We've seen him engender a spirit, I think, in the squad. I think that's the main thing, and then you've got time now to work with the players. So this is the time you're going to see that coming to fruition. I think before the Tamworth game, before the Rochdale game.
Do you think, Rob and others, what do we need to add to the squad? I mean, he's inherited, for me, players that are not good enough, like Hutchinson and Obiero, notwithstanding playing all right recently. For me, they shouldn't be anywhere near our starting 11. Todd Miller shouldn't be. And I think that if we weren't burdened by contracts of some of our players, I think he would probably move some of them on. But do we think that is there anywhere that we need to strengthen?
I don't know. We've got any funds to sign anyone.
No, I mean we've got players coming back as well. Obviously mentioned before, but Cisse and Mundell Smith, they'll boost the squad. And like it was alluded to earlier, we did actually have quite a strong bench for Ebbsfleet. I don't think so. I don't think we actually need to. I mean, obviously, let's see what injuries we get and suspensions we get going forward. But at the minute, I wouldn't say so.
Could you tell me the shape of one of his teams, Rob? Have you seen anything that's?
Yeah, well, no. Me and Hilsey were having this discussion, and Raj and Steve on the way back from Braintree, and we all thought the exact same. It does. I definitely can't see any possession football. Maybe I'm basing it a lot of what I saw from sort of Maynard's era, where we are passing it from the back and it is keep the ball sort of thing. It's definitely not at that point.
It's not that extreme, is it? Yeah.
No, it's not. But maybe that's just me. That's just me comparing. It's a tough one, and also why I find it odd is because we've seen sort of in a few games where we've seen two halves that are completely different in maybe even in our approach. Actually, I do felt, especially at Yeovil, I felt that first half we were sort of dropping quite further back than I expected as well. Actually, and whereas at Braintree. In the second half, we were utilising the wings quite a lot, getting forward. Giorgio was getting a lot more forward in that second half than he was in the first half. He was playing really, really defensively in that first half, and I think he had a really poor first half, by the way. But apart from that, it is hard to sort of gauge what our system is. I really tried to have a good look at home to Ebbsfleet as well. Look, we did have a lot of possession there, but Ebbsfleet were a poor team, and it is early days still. It is a month.
Yeah, he's been hamstrung with players and things.
Yeah,
and it's needs must at the moment, isn't it? As you say, like you can come out and play very pretty football, but if we then get rolled over by a couple of goals, the fans won't appreciate him for that. So I think he's probably got a bit of time. Be interesting to see. I don't know that we've heard a bits from him in post-match interviews, but I think when he gets the time to pause, be interested to see how he sets up that Tamworth game. If we are getting back to some sort of fitness, I think that would be really telling and something we can definitely
could be the first time we see where he's got everyone to pick from what he actually wants to do. I so want him to. I so want it to work for him. Really do.
And to be fair to him, one thing is that he has been adaptable in that, there's been quite a few games where we have gone a goal down, and we've obviously come back from that. And as like I mentioned before, our game management in making sure that we see out a win.
Yeah. We've been behind 3 times in the last 2 games, haven't we?
And we've come back from that. So he's actually managing the game. He doesn't have a set tactic, and then before the game is going, after 60 minutes, we're going to go to this system. It seems like, right, this has happened in the game. This is now what we're going to do, which obviously is a positive trait to have.
I'll give Matty his credit here because he used to be able to change a team at half time. I'll give him that.
Yeah. Didn't always win, but he did change it. That's true. Yeah. And it was appreciable change, wasn't it? Really, it's working. But one of the little things I noticed in the game against Ebbsfleet is the fact that when he brought the 4 subs on, he brought Enzio on the left and kept Mark, your fave, Dom Hutchinson, kept him in the same position on the right where he's having some joy and playing well.
Dom made our second goal on.
He did, but he put Enzio on the left, I thought, and then you had a whole new dimension with Enzio because he's strong on his left and his right foot, and he's great cutting inside from there. I thought he did really well. So they're very aware. I think it worried me slightly after the Gateshead game that the fact they were pretty quiet on the touchline. They weren't as voluble as Matty Taylor or Matt Snowden.
I think we just need to forget that game and move on. To be honest,
just write it off.
Yeah. Well, it's way behind us now, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do we think then about Tamworth after that break? We've also got Rochdale after that away. As far as I haven't really followed, I should have done more of my research. Still got Henry and Alarakia, presumably, in that Rochdale team. I'd say for me that Alarakia is the one player that we probably haven't replaced in terms of that mercurial, little touches in and around the box, bit greedy, brings players into the game, gets fouls, gets shots in. That's one player I think if we were to look for somebody, sort of Max has been in that position. He's a different type of player. Sona, can he do it going forward? But I think he's definitely one miss that we've had.
Really hard to find someone that unpredictable who does things like that. It's not usual nowadays.
They've got Jay Bird now, of course.
Just signed Jay Bird,
God, his age.
You know what's
the legend of Jay Bird.
You know what's going to happen there.
2 weeks.
Well, they're 21st in the form table, Rochdale.
You're getting carried away again, Rob.
Yeah. Oh, I know, but it's that's my research. You got to look at the stats.
Solihull bottom of that table.
Oh yeah,
and we're 6th. Is that right? I think.
Listen, they were 6th when Taylor went there, and now they're like 4 or 5 points above us.
What does that mean? What conclusions do we draw from that?
Well, I think the thing is, we do need to win one of those unexpected games. You know, like a York. Obviously, we do well at York normally, but like a Rochdale away, or just a game where we don't look at the fixtures that we've got remaining and think, right, we're going to win this one, we're going to win this one. Because obviously that's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's expectation that does us in every time, isn't it?
I'm looking forward to Rochdale because it was a Tuesday night last time we went there, and we kind of rocked up in the coach, drank in their clubhouse, watched the game, got battered, went home. Yeah, this time we might actually find a decent pub somewhere or something.
Yeah, Gracie Fields come through, isn't it?
It does feel that, you know, certainly on this predicted table, you can never rely on them. We might only need another 12 points. We've got 14 games. We've got more points than we play games at the moment. So, as always, the earlier we get those wins, the better. We're obviously missing out on the potential Boston one. But yeah, I think for me, I'd be targeting Maidenhead, Boston twice, certainly, as our, being a good chance. But I think, like Rob, we probably will pick up something like a York or something that we're not expecting. Who knows? Maybe even Barnet away. That would be good, wouldn't it? They're predicted to come top in that table, sadly. So anything we can do to stop that?
It's really unlikely that we're going to win there, isn't it? But the more wins we get now, the less likely it is they can relegate us, which is always a bonus.
Yeah. How many York fans were there the other midweek? Is it over 1,000?
I don't know.
I think they actually topped the numbers that we took there last time.
Yeah, I saw a picture.
It's impressive.
Well,
yeah, mind you, if we were challenging at the top of the table with Barnet, I think we'd take 1,500 there probably. Just a thought.
They go up. We don't have to bother with going there ever again, which would be great. It's too much stress.
Just quickly then, how many points from each of you? So start with Rob. How many points from the next two games?
3.
Okay, Tim.
I'm going 3 as well. 1 defeat, one win.
Mark.
I'm going to be positive here. I actually think 3 as well, but I'm going to go 4.
Ooh.
Brilliant. Why not? I'll just go 6, and that'll be our 5
on the drop.
5. and then we'll win the next one as well. So why not? Let's be positive. Good.
Well, it's conceivable, isn't it? Tamworth, I think, will be tougher because of their plastic pitch.
Yeah, I agree.
They're really good defence. They're well organised.
That could be the one we win that we're not expecting. A bit like Yeovil. I wasn't expecting anything there. It can happen.
Yeah. Well, nobody had anything in mind, did they? Yeovil, really? We never hardly scored. I don't think we scored there in 4 years. 3-0, I think we had, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So that was quite something to even hit the net there. So is that the next 2 games before the next podcast?
They are the next 2, yeah. I think we're next due to be having the podcast. I think it's on the 13th of March. Before then, those of you that are Supporters Club members, they've got their AGM on the 12th of March. We are hoping to have a cast with members of the Supporters Club, Nick Degard and Mark Randall, coming up as a special quite soon, which I think will be great. Again, just another plug, especially for the Alex Dyer episode. I listened to that the other day and really, really enjoyed it. I think it'd be great if we could get some more ex-Stones to join and do a deep dive like that. So if anyone's got any recommendations or if any ex-Stones are listening, watching, please get in touch. The other thing to flag also is excellent video that Hilsey worked on with Stunt Peg on YouTube, a lady called Neve, who's a real sort of non-league and general football expert and blogger. Just a nice 10-minute snapshot of the Wealdstone journey, really, which is, can highly recommend if people haven't watched it. I think there's something like, Rob, I hadn't heard of her, if I'm honest. You're probably the most likely of all of us to be following these YouTube stars. She's got sort of 500,000 followers or something, so it's a really good reach potentially.
Yeah. A lot of people, a lot of my friends who don't support Wilson have just forwarded it on to me, which kind of shows how sort of well known she is in the sort of football world, really. Well, in the UK especially.
Yeah, she's quirky, isn't she? And she knows her stuff.
It's very.
She looks better than Hilsey.
Her delivery is very much like the comedian that does the history things. What's her name? Is it Philomena Klunk or?
I know you're on your own there, Mark.
Okay. You'd know her if you saw her.
And yeah, so I think the only other thing that
you just made that up.
I think the only other thing that we saw come out, there's a little bit of commentary on the forum, was about club finances. I think it probably reinforces to us again how much we're punching. You know, we have a bigger budget than ever. I think the last accounts obviously related to previous years. That will go up even more now we've moved to hybrid, but we continue to punch above our weight. But I think there's a lot to be said for staying in this league, not least because of the chances that might bring for our new ground. We still yet to hear anything on that. I think I personally feel, you know, we've heard enough from the board to suggest lots of the discussions are going on in the background. But I think we're just going to have to keep, you know, as much as we can all do to support the club and the players. And, you know, great to see some return from Alex Reid on the investment from those fans who contributed towards that as well. And it really does show that, you know, every sort of pound counts that we can put towards the club. So it was great to see the £1 tickets against Ebbsfleet get more of the
really good idea.
Continue that to the end of the season in different games.
Talking of Alex Reid, I loved his vlog that he had, his video blog he had the other day, with him coming down, staying in the hotel overnight, having his
that was quite good. That
having his posh breakfast.
That's another one for everyone to look up. Alex did a little match
very
day.
Very good. Yeah, I know quite a few women. He's fit. He's hench. They said these women. Yeah. Can't say
a slightly mushy piece on the Wealdstone website about him, but you know, I think if he keeps us up with his goals, I can get on with that. But well, that's fine. That's fine.
I haven't read that. Oh yeah, no, actually I have. Yes, exactly what you mean. Yeah, so I'm with you now.
Spoiler.
And then just sort of saying how much he loves us and how much we love him.
Yeah,
you know, I'm an ultimate cynic when it comes to players, and to be fair to him, he would have had other options, but you know, I think we need to really appreciate players while they're here, but also be very mindful that when opportunities come up, they will move on, and that's football, that's life. I think it's great when you do get some players who really stay the course, and that's why someone like Jack Cook for me over the last couple of years has been a real stalwart, and great to see him still around, and the likes of Max and Dyer who really get it. And I think the more players and we can get doing that, the better, and that's why it's great to see, even in these early days, Neil Gibson doing that too. I hope everyone's really enjoyed the session today. I think we're still adapting to this new online technology. I think what's great is we're all able to sit at home. We can't go out and look at the waterlogged pitch at the Vale now. We're just sort of back to our living rooms, or if Tim's allowed downstairs.
Eventually.
I'm close enough to the ground here that I can walk out in my back garden and check what the pitch is like.
Oh, maybe you could tweet that afterwards, Mark. This will be up in a couple of days' time, if not sooner, with the new technology that we have. And yeah, I think the only other thing I would say is that now, you don't have to travel to the Vale to get involved in these sessions. If you would like to get involved, please, reach out to us via Twitter or, speak to one of us at the ground, because it's great to have new voices on the podcast as well. And I know that we've got a few people. I think Don Cross is joining for the first time in a couple of weeks, people that live a bit further away from the ground. So please do get involved. It's mostly a friendly bunch, and we just sort of talk nonsense about football, really. So it's an enjoyable way to spend an hour.
Or just nonsense.
Speak for yourself, yeah.
Anybody got any final thoughts or reflections before we finish off?
Yeah, buy a programme.
But absolutely, bro. You won't believe Boston United. That's the second time we're going to have to pulp a Boston United programme. But everybody's read about it.
I need to get one, actually.
I don't know whether you guys who read the programme, it was a double header last time. So all Boston details were in that programme. So we face having to lay that on you again for the rearranged game. So there you go. That's the life of in programme towers, isn't it, Mark?
It is.
Nothing's ever easy.
We love her.
We have in our favour is we haven't got huge fixture congestion coming up. We obviously haven't been involved in the later stages of the trophy. That's the one thing with Gibson as well, with the pitch. I thought actually when Gateshead came, they showed you can still play quite good football on it, but it has obviously cut up, and there's been a lot of investment in the pitch. None of us are pitch experts. Disappointing that it was cancelled the other day. I think we've probably had some games on that wouldn't have been last year, but fortunately enough, we've still got some free Tuesdays that we shouldn't be too hindered in thinking about sort of Thursday games like a few years ago.
I agree. I think we've got games on we wouldn't have had on, but that is also, it's not due to drainage. That is also to the detriment of the pitch because we're playing on it when it's heavy and that damages it. So, yeah, I think you're right, Chris. I don't think a lot.
You also find that opposing managers like to use it as a
so you're going to go down Rochdale wrote here who complained about our pitch and then barely played for 3 months because their pitch was so bad.
Yeah.
If you hear Josh Wright, the Braintree, no, was he Braintree manager? No, the Ebbsfleet manager, one of the Only Wears Essex gang. He said the pitch was a disgrace. He said, "How we expected to play on a pitch like that?" I thought, like John Morton was alongside me in the commentary box in the 1970s, and that was
he would know, I think
that'd be like Wembley. That'd be like playing at Wembley if you played at the Vale back in the 70s. I mean, every pitch barely had a bit of grass down the sides. So yeah, it's a good excuse when you've lost, I think.
Certainly is. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for a really enjoyable discussion this evening, and hopefully see you all at Tamworth in a week or so.
Yep.
Up the Stones.
So kiss your badge. Those who've got a badge.
Grown men in football shirts.